Recording Satsang session on 29th May 1983. Continuing Savitri, Book 2, Canto 2.
Usually, when we deal with exceptional individuals, we have some difficulty in establishing a relation, what they call rapport with them, till we get to know their central character. This question doesn't rise very much in the case of ordinary people, but with persons of note who are endowed with a certain personality, who are somebodies in their own fields, we need to get some key to their character. By character, I mean their nature, their soul type, their mold of mind. And after some observation, study of their lives, it is possible to get at a certain approximation of their central character. But this is impossible in the case of mother, because she is unique in this sense that she has no one personality. Where are you going to fix that this is she? Every moment she changes. It's not that she is volatile, sailing with the wind, no. There is a certain steadiness, firmness, but at the same time a quality that escapes your hold. I have thought over this question quite often. Why is it that nobody is able to fix things about her and say this is she? If that is she, you should be able to anticipate her reactions to situations. Identical situations have got to evoke identical reactions. But that was never the case with the mother. With no two individuals, no two cases would she respond in an identical way. She was too complex for any standards of human psychology. And that is because, as Sri Aurobindo describes as early as 1928, she combines in herself three statuses of the reality. First, she is the individual embodiment whom we have known in the body, we have loved and cherished as the mother here. At the same time, she has a cosmic dimension. She has also a universal aspect. I am not happy with the word aspect, but a universal dimension. At any moment, she could go into that. She could respond from a status in the universal consciousness. And besides, there was a part of her consciousness which was transcendent, which exceeded the universal formulation. Now all these three, mind you, they were present in a very active form all the time. It is not like a person realizing the self and being united with the self in the depths of his being and behaving outside like an intoxicated one or like an inert one, like one overpowered by feelings and so on. There was a complete harmonization. And this made her absolutely unreachable by standards, concepts of psychology. No wonder Sri Aurobindo wrote that her movements are so rapid that they will be bewildering to the human mind, which is unable to keep pace with her speed, with her change of status. That is why if 1,000 people have met her, each has a different assessment, different reaction, different understanding. And all of them are true in their own way, because each has some experience. And she being a dynamic person, not a static personality, the experiences would change. So neither the mind nor the emotional heart, nor, it goes without saying, the physical approach could by itself establish a point of contact. It was only the psychic element in each one that could forge a link between her and the persons concerned. She was more difficult to fit in with our conceptual framework because she was a pioneer, adventuring into the unknown, the new. Naturally, she had to break the molds of the past which refused to change. She never broke things for the pleasure of breaking. She always had a sentiment, almost human, to everything that has survived the ages. But if it stood in the way If it was resistant to the change, she would have no hesitation in shoving it aside. She never believed in cutting the knots. As I mentioned on some other occasion, our Indian tradition, dating from the Upanishads, speaks of cutting the knots that tie us to nature, the various knots, the central knot of which is in the heart, Hridaya Granthi. But she always approached the problem from the point of view of loosening the knot. She said we have to work on it every day, find out the factors that give strength to that rigidity and unloosen it, so that nothing is broken. The whole remains the whole. That is why, incidentally, I may mention that she disapproved of operations on the human body unless indispensable. And she would say the indispensable cases would be very, very few if rightly handled. She was told that when the doctors give anesthesia, the patient is not aware. She said, true, but the body is aware. The body undergoes a certain shock, and as a result, some balance at the subtler level is upset. And it is never the same even after what we call complete recovery. The wholeness of nature is disturbed, cut into. So she said, particularly to a doctor friend here, who had a nasal complaint, what we call septal deviation. I have got something of it. Many of us have got it. I believe in this weather, it is more natural. Well, when he asked her, the doctor's advice operation, she thought for a while, and she said, well, you only know where you start. You never know where you will end. At that time, at least, the disciple didn't go in for the operation. She always had a certain hesitation in giving direct advice, yes or no, do this or don't do. We in our childish minds expect the Guru to tell us point blank, do this, don't do this. If for any reason they are vague, we attribute motives to them. Once it happened that I asked her whether a certain thing in administrative way I could do it. She said, oh, all right. Things went wrong. So next day I asked her, next time when the occasion came, I asked, this has happened. She said, I had feared that. Then why didn't mother tell me so? He said, but you wanted to do it. That is, she would always see what you really want to do. When we went to her, we always had a certain predisposition already made up. We wanted her sanction to do what we wanted. Sri Aurobindo would say, yes or no. But she had the heart of a mother, and that is all the difference. She would want you to learn at your own pace, in your own way. And she would always say, see what you really want to do, and unless really it is very harmful, she would let you go through, give you, as she would point out, power of endurance, power of sticking through. But if it was ruinous, of course she would say don't. The other day I was reading, this happens to people who are in a kind of God consciousness, always. There was a saint, recently he passed away. He was in South Fallsburg, on the east coast of America, in his center, and a famous psychologist, he and his wife, they were his disciples. So they came. He came to the ashram center near New York, and then he had a conference somewhere in California. So he said, Baba, I have to go day after tomorrow. Baba looked at him and said, no, you are not going. He was taken aback, but he said, I have a conference, I have sponsored the conference and I have to hold that conference. I can't but go. Everybody is depending upon me. He didn't answer. The day before the departure was due, he again said, I am going tomorrow. He again said, you are not going. But next morning, he got into the plane and left. And that plane crashed in Chicago. There's the famous, there was a particular make of an aeroplane manufacturer which had some structural defect. So that year the whole, it was suspended, that company and all that. But he crashed and he died. Now the question some people asked, why didn't you say that before? That if you go you will die. Well, who is to ask? They have a certain dharma. They are not permitted to say what is going to happen. They can only give you a hint. They can put an inner pressure. That was mother's way, inner pressure. Outwardly she will say nothing, but inwardly she would do what she would say, put the needle of the compass, a little adjustment. And we have seen in a number of cases such changes taking place. It is a great education to study her doings. As all of you are aware, I have been here for over 40 years, at least 33 years of which were spent at her feet. And all the past, all the things that happened, whether I understood them or not, I half understood, misunderstood, a little few things rightly understood. The whole panorama comes alive on certain occasions. When I read anything, any experience of anybody, the whole thing comes alive. And for the last 6 months, I have been devoting some time of the day for writing my understanding of what I call her ministry. She comes with a mission and consciously she works, she manifests her ideal, her truths, accepts whatever circumstances come along. She doesn't shirk anything. So that is her ministry. So it lasted about 50 years in India. Earlier ones we do not have personal experience. And the more I study, the more I write, I find she is the more deep, the more unfathomable is her personality, her consciousness. The occasion for me to give you all this background is that my first volume of what I call Commentaries on the Mother's Ministry has just arrived. And whatever you have been hearing from me all along, particularly regarding Mother personally, you will find fully developed and presented, related to the ancient spiritual tradition of India and Sri Aurobindo's thought and yoga, insofar as it has relevance to you and me. I have no wish to present high philosophy, which only scholars will understand. No. The true test of writing, I have been told, I have been disciplined in that culture by my guide, is that a child should understand. He said, if it is a translation, the person who does not know English, that person must understand in that language in which it is translated. We always refer to the English original when we don't understand. That shows that the translation is not correct to the standard. Similarly, if we need somebody else's help to understand or follow a writing, to that extent it is not successful. So I have tried to keep to a certain, what they call, popular level, but without vulgarizing. It will be profane to lower her to the common taste. She shines out in any context. So I have planned to issue these in volumes of 100 essays each. And the first volume naturally contains details of her life, details of her founding the ashram, her various experiences in the occult worlds, relations with the adversary, the anti-God, her experience on the day of the supramental power's descent, what exactly happened, why it is not spectacularly effective, not seen by others. All these in a very colloquial way. I am not playing a salesman. I just want that all who are here should know that what I write is a part of our interchange in her consciousness. One mind is growing. There is no mistake about it. And those of you who would like to enter into detail, more detail than what I have been able to provide during these sessions twice a week, could with advantage read and study these commentaries on the Mother's ministry. You will concede that I have a certain objectivity in looking at myself as an author, separate from a sadhak. And I have played that part. And I trust I will not be misunderstood to be pressurizing any of you to read these books, but it has a well-meant gesture. I think we could meditate for about 10 minutes. That basis, it is cost about 15 rupees.